everybody! Today we're going to talk about fine-tuning your draft. Now you should be at a point in your writing where you've added a lot of concrete details, sensory details, literary, poetic, rhetorical devices that you'll be able to analyze later, and you're just looking at finishing up and polishing what will become your final draft tomorrow. So the first thing that I want you to think about today, and maybe you're okay with this already, but if you haven't yet thought about how you're going to purposefully divide your lines and purposefully divide your poem into stanzas, that's something to consider because you're going to have to talk about your organization and why you made the choices that you did. So my tip here for you is to group like ideas or trains of thoughts into separate stanzas. And then you also want to consider whether you want short lines, long lines, and why. Make sure that you have a reason for that. You might have enjambment where you spread one sentence over multiple lines, and that's okay. But again, you should have a purpose for doing that. And think about the first and last words in each line as carrying a lot of weight, and use that as a rule of thumb for dividing your lines. So you don't want to end a line with sort of a bland or meaningless word. You want it to matter. The next tip here is to be concise in your writing. So you want to avoid unnecessary repetition or overused phrases or words, cliche things. Try to twist those so that they are phrased in a unique way. And on the opposite end of things, you want to make sure that you're using words your audience will actually understand. Don't go thesaurus heavy. Number one, you might not be able to pronounce those. Number two, we might not know what they mean. Aside from that, there are some things that you can do to fine-tune that are a little less obvious but have a big impact. Number one, if you can and you don't need to do this necessarily for all of them, but if you can find a way to get rid of to-be verbs, they're listed here: am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. That flips your poem from passive voice to active voice, and it ends up helping you write in a more concise manner. You also want to get rid of general words like thing or great or beautiful or hard and replace those with some words that carry more weight. And then finally, a lot of the times you can go through and just delete or omit articles like a, an, or the, and your poem is cleaned up and it ends up sounding a lot better. Let me quickly talk through an example here. All right, so I snuck into a couple of your drafts and I picked this one to kind of showcase as an example for the fine-tuning steps I just talked about. So we're talking again line divisions, stanza divisions, and then elimination of wordiness to be more concise. So why don't you hit the pause button and read through this, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so now that you have read through this, let's talk through how we can change this up. First, for line divisions, you can see a lot of the lines are drawn out and each sentence is kind of a line, or there's not a lot of consistency there. I'm not getting the sense that it's purposeful. So if it were me, I would go through and just try to break up and make sure that, again, the ends of lines carry weight. So every day and smile are now emphasized here. And then the sentence continues. So that's enjambment over 3 lines now, but I want to break this third one up a little bit more. So I might say, thinking of joys and wonders that happened here, from the blunders of learning to walk to the toys that pile wall to wall. And then I'm kind of seeing a separate idea here. So I'm going to choose to cut this stanza off and make a new one. So we're on to memories and making memories, and we're talking about sitting with a friend, getting to round 10. Again, we're going to break that up here. We're going to break that up here. Now this might be an example of how you would draw out a line and might have a purpose to that. He's talking about like working, and he lists a lot of details, so you get the sense that this sentence kind of goes on, but it's echoing the continuous work that it's talking about. So I think that that would be purposeful to let this all be kind of together, because that syntax emphasizes the point that he's trying to make there. And then again, there's a separate idea here, and let's see here, we're going to do this. We are going to do this, this. Taking tests, installing, after 3 days. Okay, so we've started to get some purposeful divisions in here. Now step 2 is going through and seeing if we can omit easily some articles and some to be verbs. I'm not really seeing any cliches or words like things, so that's good. But let's see how we can further fine-tune this. So as I meet you every day, I welcome you with a smile. Here, instead of thinking of the joys and wonders, I can just say thinking of joys and wonders. Now this, watch what happens when I take it out. I'm not sure that that line was necessary, and now we've just created a nice rhyme that's unexpected. Because it is crossing from wonders to blunders. So thinking of joys and wonders from, again, we don't need the, from blunders of learning to walk to, take out the there, to toys that pile from wall to wall. This might be a place where we could insert some further concrete details, an image to help us picture which toys, what colors, what do they look like, what are their shapes. Then we go on to talk about memories, and I think I could concise this up here, and I might just say I made memories here, just to make that a little bit more direct. And then again, I'm going to omit that. I'm going to say sitting with a friend, getting to round 10, and starting again with no fear. I'm going to take out that and. Oops. Starting again, and then to emphasize this no fear, I think I'm going to even make that its own line, and I'm going to add a with. Alright, so we're moving on. Or a night spent, I'm guessing this means dizzy, maybe not. A night spent dizzy and bent and finishing a project that wouldn't even affect my grade, but I worked because again, we can just take out the. Again, we can just take out the because Christmas and RGB lights and friends on the other end of the mic propelled me to do what's right. Moving on. Again, concise these up. So I would just say 14 years of my life, comma, and you gave me no fright. And then here I might say something simple like, but now I know your cancer. You, and here's a to be verb, were. We're going to flip this to become active. We're going to say, you killed me. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to bump this up here. I'm going to say you took tests and failed with flying colors. And then we're going to talk about a radon system here. I'm going to say, and with your new radon system, I'm going to add in pipes bent, event, but this wasn't the best part. And I'm going to bump that down, and I'm going to repeat the best part. So some purposeful repetition here. The best part I returned, because that's the gist of this next bit. I returned. And then I might say I continued to greet you with a smile after long days away, and you, and go on and on. So I hope you guys are seeing how, look how nicely this poem flows, and it's cleaned up, it's more concise, and we get a sense that there's some purpose behind the line divisions, and by omitting the things that aren't necessary, we're helping the listener's attention go to those things that are necessary and that we do want them to pay attention to, and we're not allowing them to get lost in the wordiness. Hope you found this helpful. Now the next step is to actually apply it to your draft. Good luck.